Support from the Meeple Minded comes from listeners like you. The next time you're looking for that new geek-tastic purchase, why not support us by using our affiliate link, where we get a small percentage of the total at no extra cost to you. Go to thecomicshop.co.uk/Meeple Minded. Thank you for your support. What is up, guys, and welcome to the Meeple Minded podcast, the podcast where we talk all things tabletop gaming. My name is still Jason.
And my name is still James.
That's always good to know.
Yeah,
James.
I know.
It's always good. It's an everyday occurrence, really, that names change. But
I was going to say depot is a thing, mate, so we should check periodically.
But no, I'm pretty sure I'm still Jason, although I do ask myself that question every single day.
Well, one of my many multiple personalities hasn't taken over, so I am, for the moment, still James.
I mean, I just like to sort of think that my name has changed so that I can get a day off work and go, well, I'm not employed here. My name is Josh. I'll be back tomorrow because, my name will revert to being Jason again when I run out of money.
Do you know, the amount of times I've been tempted to do that to my boss, and I can say this because they don't listen. It's just whenever they phone my mobile, I just go, I've told you before, stop phoning me. This number doesn't apply to this person anymore.
That's an easy way to get out of work, actually. Just sell your phone. There you go. But yes, anyway, James, how have you been this week?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's raining.
It is raining.
It's raining now.
It's been raining solidly for 3 days.
It has, which is really weird because this time last week we were literally sweating buckets while we were sat here, and now we're sort of sitting here going, well, I kind of want to put the heating on, but, expensive.
It's not reached that point yet where I feel like I need the heating on. It's just wet.
It is very
But when you
very
work outside,
yes,
it's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, that it really isn't fun working outside in it. But having said that, I'm quite a big guy, so I like the rain because it cools me down.
Yeah, it's just today I felt like the weather had it in for me because, did my first couple of drops, had an hour's gap where nothing happened, and it was reasonably nice. Got back on the road, got to my first call, lifted the shutter up on my van, and
down came the rain and washed the James out.
I've literally been sitting here doing nothing for an hour. You couldn't have done this an hour ago, no?
That's what you get for having an hour of sitting there doing nothing. But yes, we played a brand new game to us last night, didn't we?
We did.
It's a game that I have been desperate to play for about 2 years at this point. We played Lost Ruins of Arnak.
We did.
How did you find it, Joe? First impressions of that game?
I really enjoyed it. For a first playthrough, I thought it was a really fun game.
Yeah? Okay. Very interesting. I mean, I've considered purchasing the game. However, I mean, as we'll reveal a bit later on with the topic today, money is getting a little bit tight, so it's not a game that I'm certain is going to make it to my collection. I would be interested to know if this might be one that maybe number 2. Is it going to be number 2 for James?
It's not.
No?
It's not that good to make me buy it, and it would technically be breaking the rules as the person who owns the copy of Lost Ruins of Arnak that we played is Ant. So it's again one of those justifications of, can I really justify buying this game when one text message and I'm sure he'd let me borrow it?
He probably would. I mean, Ant's pretty laid back when it comes to that, and as long as you return it in good condition, he's usually pretty good with that. So I guess because I know I definitely want to play it again, so
yeah,
I can well believe we're either going to drag Ant out for another game night.
Well, we played the easy side of the board. Now we need to play the hard side of the board.
Yeah, we do. Although I'm still tempted not to play it again because, I've got to hold that 100% victory. And, I won by 4 points, was it? 4 points? However, still a V, James.
Yep.
Still a V. And the Board Game Stats app looks good because it says 100%.
Yeah, but one playthrough, dude.
We don't look at that.
Yeah, oh yes, we do.
The pie chart says 100% win. But yes, that was last night. How about we talk about last year, James? Because this time last year, we reviewed Root.
We did. I'm glad you know that because I can't remember what I was doing 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, this time last year we did Root. Now, probably one of the most positive reviews I think we've done on the channel. have your feelings changed towards Root, and have you played it since?
We probably have played it since the episode, but a couple of playthroughs after the episode and then haven't touched it since. My feelings on the base game probably haven't changed. It's probably still a very enjoyable game, and I still love the whole cutesy woodland critters fighting woods. I love that theme. Need to play some of the expansions.
See, I have played a couple of the expansions at this point. Like, I've probably played it a few more times than you since. However, if memory serves correctly, when we did that review in a 2 weeks period, I think I played the game something like 27 times. And the truth of the matter is, while I have played it a couple of times since then, I'm still, to this day, pretty burnt out on Root. The expansions definitely made it a little bit better, but I have probably played the PC version a couple of times since and have enjoyed that. So that might be a game that I might well put back into rotation very soon. And now that the expansions are all part of that base game box that I have, it will always be there should we want to include some expansion factions or expansion maps. But yeah, so your take on Root, still the same? Still very good game?
Still very good game.
Yeah, good. Because I'm exactly the same. Really happy with it. I'm actually going to say I am looking forward to playing that again. So maybe we will get that to the table very soon. But anyway, James, this week we are not doing a game highlight episode. We are going to be doing a topical.
A topical, Jason.
A topical. It's been about a month since we did one of these, so it was a time to break out another one. And this one is, I guess, another somber one, but it is something that, again, I feel we need to talk about, because this is something that is affecting everyone in the world, but we're going to focus primarily on what's going on here in the UK. Are you ready for it, James?
I am.
Let's dive into this week's topical. So, this week's topic of conversation, James, is the cost of living.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's it. in a nutshell, isn't it? Is everything's expensive. All joking aside, as I said, the whole world is suffering for this, but right now in the UK, I am going to say things are getting pretty damn nasty, because following on from the pandemic, a lot of things were more costly in price anyway. Just the gaming industry, we were looking at higher shipping. In the UK, we're looking at our fantastic Brexit tax. Since we decided to leave the EU, we now have higher import taxes, higher VAT on, bringing products in. Rent within the UK has become more expensive. Food within the UK has become more expensive.
Energy bills.
Energy bills, yes, the elephant in the room, because they are literally the weight of an elephant right now.
Yeah, although on the rare occasions that I glance at a newspaper or something, I do believe that the new Prime Minister has actually decided to freeze energy bills now for 18 months. So as high as they are, they will not go any higher, because that was the big thing that they were that I've seen people worrying about, is that they were predicting in October, I think it was supposed to be, that they were going to jump again.
Yeah.
So as eye-wateringly high as they are now, they won't go up for another 18 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a buffer.
It's a watering can on a blazing inferno, but
yes,
it's something.
Yeah. So, I mean, fingers crossed things will get better when it comes to the energy side of things in the UK, because that is crazy. Obviously, petrol, fuel is still... It's still up high, but it is starting to come down. I was going to say,
I because my car was off the road for a while, so it's been about a month and a half since I filled up, and it was noticeable how much it's come down since the last time I filled up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine was about, I mean, for context, my car used to be about £60 to fill the tank from empty. It went up to about 85-90 at one point.
Yeah.
And it's back down to about 80.
At its worst, it used to cost me £35 to fill mine up, because I've got a tiny car.
You do, yes.
It used to cost me £35 to fill mine up. At its worst, I broke the £60 mark, so it almost doubled.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I think when I filled up last week, it was 51, I think, before I hit the click.
Of course, yeah.
So it's on that side of things. Petrol seems to have stayed. Again, it's high, but it's stabilized and come down a little bit. It's a £10 reduction. Again, it's a band-aid, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah. And, for those of you that don't know where we are based, we are in the south of the UK. We are about halfway between Brighton on the coast and the capital city of London. We are on the London to Brighton main line, which is arguably the most busy railway line in the UK, or at least one of them. And it's well known that this area, Sussex, Surrey, and the surrounding areas, is some of the most expensive houses to purchase.
Yeah.
And even the rent is the highest in the country.
Yeah,
so,
and this is, you're delving into housing markets now, because it's like, when we say most expensive, we don't mean the best.
No, not
by a long shot.
No, for the money that you could get, say, a 3-bed terrace house down here, just standard house, you can get a 4-bedroom detached house up north.
I mean, probably a lot more than that. Yeah. There is now a massive difference. I think one of the guys who goes to the gaming club, John, was telling me about this. The house that I think it's his mother is looking at purchasing. I mean, it's way up north. It's almost on the border of Scotland. It's huge.
Yeah.
We're talking 5-6 bedrooms.
Yeah.
It's got a built-in sauna and, spa and all this kind of stuff. Real
luxury.
And like you said, they're looking at the same cost as you would pay for a spacious 3 or 4 bedroom house down here.
Yeah. Obviously, it's always been that way. North has always been a lot cheaper than the south, but, that gives you a rough idea of what we're talking about in the area that we're in. Now, this is not obviously a money podcast. We don't talk about finances or anything like that. However, all of these things that we're talking about is going to affect the hobby that we are all in of tabletop gaming.
Yep.
Be it on a personal level, be it on a gaming club level, because we can talk about that as we run our own games club, and even on the friendly local game store level, and I guess higher distributors. All of that are going to be affected by this.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Could you design a video game? Think there's an exciting combination of game mechanics we haven't seen yet? On the Gaming Blender podcast, we take randomized game genres and mechanics and create a brand new hypothetical game every episode. An MMO with Dark Souls difficulty, horror and base building, or even an Ultimate Team walking simulator. The possibilities are endless. Click the link in the notes or find us on your favorite podcast provider. Come and have a listen to the Gaming Blender now.
Yeah.
And I just want to chat about how people are being affected, how it's already affected us, how we think it might affect us in the future, and the real danger that, for me, is ever present in this whole, air quotes, golden age of board gaming. Have we finally reached that period that bubble is about to burst because, and through no fault of its own, but because of a massive, basically, recession?
Well, when you boil it down, isn't it? It's board gaming, and this entire hobby, board and tabletop gaming, is a luxury.
Yeah.
And luxuries are the first thing to go out the window when costs get tight.
Yes, indeed. I mean, let's start things off. Let's start it off on a personal level, James. With everything that's come and gone recently, I mean, I don't think you're afraid to admit that you are indeed a smoker as well, so your costs have gone up through that. Your petrol prices have gone up. Have you found any of those things so far have affected the way you go about your gaming? Have you attended? Have you bought? I know you don't buy many games anyway, but for example, you've just got back into 30k.
Mm-hmm.
I know how you used to spend when you played 40k.
Yes.
Have you found that that's been different this time around because of what's been going on in life?
No. I have decided to change my spending habits on that because I am now, he says, air quotes, a responsible adult who is not going to go, as soon as I get paid, to go, whoopee-doo, I'm going to blow it on plastic and then go, oh, I've got 3 weeks to get through now with no money. It's like, no, it's don't be an idiot, basically.
Don't be me.
The caveat to that is obviously I should put on that I'm probably less affected than a lot of people because I still live at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Therefore, I'm not running my own house. I'm not paying I pay a share towards the running of the house, but I am not solely shouldering energy bills, a mortgage or rent, and all the other stuff that comes from being a homeowner.
Yeah. I mean, on those grounds, actually, I mean, we can obviously talk about that. Is that an educated decision? Because, you know, of the cost of living, you know.
I would. It's just the area we live in. Is the way I calculated it with the current amount of money I earn, I couldn't get a mortgage, which is stupid because the rent that you pay in this area is about £300 above what your monthly mortgage repayment would be.
Yep.
And, you know, this is an argument I see going around a lot. It's like rent is more than a mortgage.
Yeah. Where's the logic?
Yeah. And considering that most of those landlords got buy-to-let mortgages, it's like I am paying somebody else's mortgage.
Yeah. I mean, for you personally, because of, you know, I guess your circumstances, you're not too affected with regards to your hobby.
No.
Obviously, when it comes to games clubs, you run one with me on a Monday. You attend the one on a Wednesday. Have you ever thought that maybe you'd have to stop that one because that one does cost you money as a weekly thing?
It does, but, you know, this is going back to what we were just saying. It's like, I think I actually calculated that I could, on my wage, I could pay rent in this area and I could pay the bills just about and the council tax and all the other gubbins that goes with it. So I could pay those bills.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have an empty flat with no furniture or anything like that. I'd barely be able to put food on. I'd definitely have to give up a car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, probably it would be a choice between driving or eating.
Yep.
And it's like, that's not a way to live.
No. So, I mean, yeah, if you were living on your own, you think that going to games nights are totally out.
The entire, my life would consist of literally work, possibly eat and sleep.
Yeah. No life, is it really?
Yeah. And that's like you said, that is a conscious decision on my point. It's like there's cutting back and living within your means and then there's not having a life.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the point, quote unquote, slaving away at work every day to sit in an empty box?
Mm-hmm. So I think when we're talking about on a personal level, my story is far more involved with regards to gaming because I've broken things down into a few sections where I have had to economize. You know, for example, we'll go straight off the bat. I have always been, you know, the air quotes crowdfunding addict, Kickstarter addict. I've drastically reduced how many campaigns I'm backing. While I still look every day, I find myself being far more picky, you know, and that's a combination of things from Brexit tax, VAT, and all of those things. Now you start adding in these extra shipping costs. You start adding in, you know, the topic of cost of living. I am really having to pick and choose what games I'm backing on Kickstarter. From January to September last year, I probably backed in the region of 30 to 40 games, I reckon, something like that. Whereas this year, I think I'm at about 12. So we are talking massive differences. Then there's the retail spending. I actually had a chat with our friendly local game store last night, you know, because I've always done my bit to try and support the store by purchasing games in there. And yeah, I've had to cut that back as well because I just cannot justify buying all of these extra games when, again, it's whether someone has paid attention to it before. My son actually lives up north, so I have to drive up north quite regularly, which uses more fuel. My expenses have gone up. I started selling games this year, James. I've sold nearly a quarter of my collection in order to try and keep my, I guess, buying habits at a steady rate. You know, if I'm buying a game, it means I need to sell enough to cover its cost. My attendance to games clubs that aren't my own, I've had to cut that back. Again, all of these entrance fees, they add up.
And fuel to get to them.
Fuel to get to them. All of these little things, they all add up. And the final one for me, and this is probably the one that depresses me the most, my own personal investments into my own game clubs. You know, right now, James, off the bat, we have had a surge in 40k players.
We have.
Which means we are now in desperate need of new game mats and new scenery. Normally, I'd happily just go, yep, cool, no problem. Go out there, buy it all, get it built, get it painted, and it's there ready to go. I have not been able to react like that this year because of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
That's where things have come from on my side, and it's all come from just little increases here and there, and it's just eaten into my expendable money every month. So yeah, it's not great. It's not a great time, James. Now, one thing I do want to talk about, and this is a bit of an anomaly, I think. Our Monday Night Game Club, as I touched on just a little bit there, we've had a surge in people actually attending as opposed to numbers dropping off.
Mm.
This, I feel, is rather strange because I was expecting numbers to start dipping a little bit at this point. Do you think that dip may well be coming, or are we talking that we're doing something so amazingly good that people are actually just willing to come down and pay that money?
I'd like to think that was it, but I think it's a combination of, I suspect that bubble is coming through necessity at some point or another. If things don't improve, like I said, a lot of people are going to be made to make that hard choice. And it's like, can I justify that gaming fee or that entry fee to the gaming club? A gaming club is slightly different because if you already have the stuff, as most people do, have collections of whatever it is you play, you're just paying your, in our case, £3 for somewhere to play it.
Yeah.
Some of that rise, I think, may come from almost a justification. It's like, I need to justify why I've spent all this money, therefore I need to get out there and use it effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if things don't get better, then that will be one of those costs that people start to question, can I justify this?
Yeah. And that is a concern, obviously, from us, because obviously this is where we start talking about the game club, because we have costs. We have rent that needs to be paid. We hire our hall from our local council. Now, they're pretty good at keeping their costs set for the entire year. However, they have recently talked about, with the increase in energy costs, that they may have to alter that sooner rather than later, because obviously when we go in the hall, we have all the lights on and all of that, whereas obviously when it's closed, it's lights off and so on. If we have an increase in our rental costs and a decrease in our members, that's where the problems start occurring for us. And how long is it going to be sustainable for game clubs to really continue paying this rent while having minimal amounts of attendees coming along?
Yeah, like you said, I'd say the past month we've had really good numbers.
Yes, yeah.
Which has really helped. But the bubble's got to burst at some point.
Yeah. So I mean, fingers crossed it won't get to that. And like you said, with the news that they are now starting to cap those energy costs, hopefully it will help. But we will see.
Yeah, the key phrasing there is cap, not reduce.
Yes.
It means they won't go any higher, but they're also not coming down.
Yeah. So I think the final one that I really want to talk about, James, are the friendly local game stores. Let's be honest, heart and soul of the hobby. Because without the friendly local game stores, we don't have places to buy the stuff that we want for our hobby.
Yep.
So yes, we may decide, we make an educated adult decision that we are not going to buy any games for the next year. But in a year's time, and we go, right, we're out of all of this trouble. I now want to go and buy a game. Oh, my friendly local game store is gone. Is that something you reckon could be a risk of happening?
I think it depends on the game store. And most of them that I've personally seen seem to be more set up like our particular local game store, where, ironically, games are not the bread and butter that pays the rent. The food is. And I think they'll be all right as long as their event nights continue to be popular, which very much like the gaming club, if you already own a board game collection or a tabletop army or, campaign books for D&D, they're all things that are regularly played at the gaming store. Aside from your table fee, there isn't really that much of a cost. And most people will still, on a long session, they'll buy food. That's where they actually make the money. That's where the profit is.
Yeah.
Not from the game sales.
See, now, while I 100% agree with that, the profit margins on food and drink is far superior to the likes of, I've bought a board game. You might think to yourself, oh, they probably get 50% of that board game cost.
No.
That is it's not the case at all. They get about, I mean, it depends on how much they sell it for, obviously, but when you've got retailers selling it at a reduction, that's eating into their profits at the end of the day. Whereas with food and drink, the profit margins are much higher percentage. But there is, of course, the one issue. Now, think about our friendly local game store, for example. They serve hot food. That oven is switched on at, I think, 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And it runs right through till 9 p.m. That's a lot of power keeping it at heat. Now, this isn't our friendly local game store, but there is a local game store that I follow on Facebook. They actually put a post out, and I want to read it because it actually gives quite a good breakdown, and I think you will find this fairly interesting, James. So this is just an extract from it. While we are awaiting confirmation, it's looking like our energy bills are going to be at least 5 times what we are currently paying. To put this in perspective, this would mean our energy bills would be equal to, if not exceeding, our rental costs. Couple this with the predictable dip in customers due to the cost of living crisis, means to cover our basic bottom line costs, we need over 90 customers paying for 2 hours gaming at £3.50 and purchasing anything more than a can of Coke. As a business, we have never topped 70 paying customers per day. Long story short, if the UK government does not step in, this is something that puts our business and our livelihood at risk. Now, this is a friendly local game store that, again, serves hot food.
Yeah.
And that's what this post was about the fact that while it is their most profitable items, they are considering having to remove those items because of the cost to keep the appliances running. So where do we stand now?
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, we spoke about energy costs. It's like, I didn't take into account the fact that, obviously a oven uses a hell of a lot of electricity.
And you may not think of it like, I've got my little smart meter here. Every time I put the oven on to cook my dinner, it shoots straight up into orange and red because it's using so much power to heat the elements and things like that. When you think about restaurants, the likes of fast food restaurants, they're draining so much power with just cooking your food for you. Thousands upon thousands of people's food every single day. It's a lot of power that they're burning, and this is all going to add to the cost. We're talking just about the gaming industry here, James. This is going to affect
everyone.
Everything. Your cheap McDonald's meal could well go up by £2 because they need it to.
It already is. What is it? I don't tend to buy food from there, but I do tend to, because there's one in my workplace, I do tend to buy a cup of coffee every morning. That has gone up from something like £1.80 to it was over £2 this morning. I was like,
and it's tiny little increase, but again, those tiny increases are going to, they're gonna affect us. For me, the biggest thing that we really need to worry about as hobbyists are the loss of the friendly local game stores, or the potential loss of these friendly local game stores. So I thought of sort of 5 mini things that people can do to try and help the situation. By all means, everyone is not going to be able to do all of these, but if you can, that's what I think. And James, you may well have some ideas as well, but I think 5 things that we can do. The first is totally free to everyone. And this is a very UK specific thing, so I do apologise to the American listeners on this one. As useless as it may seem, one thing you can do in the immediate future, in fact, while you're listening to this, you could be drafting a letter to your local MP to really fight your case. The more people that put pressure on your local MPs, the more likely they are to actually bring this up. To actually say, they've got to go to government and say the government needs to do something before it's too late to help small businesses to get through all this. Obviously, this kind of thing I drafted out before the news of the cap on the energy bills. However, that's not enough. It's
not enough. It's like I said, that's a band-aid on a split artery. It's a start, but it's not going to stop it. It's like, congratulations, they're not going to go up in October, but they are stupidly high. They're also not going to go down either.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, to give you an idea of why I come up with this particular one was, one, it costs nothing. Two, we use our game club as an example. We recently had a building permit went up next to the hall that we use, and the amount of our members that reacted to it and objected to it actually was enough to sort of get their notice. You know, they were put on notice, and they actually had to start asking questions as to why people were rejecting it. As it turned out, it was actually for the building next to our hall.
Yeah.
But yeah, long story short, because so many from even just our club, you know, I'm sure many others rejected it as well, like local residents, but because so many people said no, they had to take notice. And the MPs, your local MP, is exactly the same, because the last thing they want to do is completely ignore your calls for help and then come up for election and basically be booted.
Yeah.
Because they ignored you. So that's number one. That's a totally free one, which I think doesn't hurt anyone. It's drafting a letter, drafting an email, contacting them on social media. Get your community to basically do just that, to help your friendly local game store or club. Number two, if for whatever reason you are in town shopping or decide you want a drink, remember, most game stores don't only sell hobby stuff. They sell food and drink. As we have just discussed, the profit margins are much better. If you're going to buy a drink anyway, be it tea, coffee, instead of going to Costa, go to your friendly local game store and just buy a coffee. You can sit in and drink it. You can take it away. They will probably care for your money more than the big chain coffee shop that you've probably just visited.
Yep.
Would you agree with that one?
I would definitely agree with that one.
I know I try and, whenever I'm out working in my work van, I try to go to as many friendly local game stores as I can, even if it's just to buy a coffee. I do that on a daily basis, and I'm going to continue to do that now to help as many places as I possibly can when I'm just buying a drink that I would buy anyway. Food, maybe not. I can understand that. Food is a bit more expensive, but can of Coke, an energy drink if they sell them. I know our one does.
Yeah.
Tea, coffee, all of that jazz. Go to your friendly local game store and buy one. Number three. This one is a pretty simple one, I guess, because we preach it all year round. If somehow you have the money to treat yourself to a new game, buy it from your friendly local game store. Yes, it may be a few pounds more expensive than buying it on Amazon, for example. However, much like the last one, that friendly local game store is going to notice the difference by having your sale, whereas Amazon, it's a drop in the ocean. Support your friendly local game store. Number four, this is another one that you can do totally for free, and it actually benefits more than you might think. Share your friendly local store's Facebook pages, their website. Just share it on your own social media. You may well have a friend that maybe you didn't even know they were into gaming, or maybe they collect Funko Pops and your friendly local game store sells Funko Pops. Just share the page, because you never know. They may not make a sale. It may make one sale, but that sale is going to be treasured, much like everything else we've talked about. It's something free you can do. I mean, hell, if you're trying to get someone into the hobby, it's another thing you can do. Look, have a look at this website. This is all the stuff that I like. This is what I'm talking about. It's a really easy thing to do. It may not work. It may work. You never know. Doesn't hurt to do it.
I agree.
And the final one, and this one I can totally understand if people do not want to do, but if you have anything spare at all, I'm sure all your friendly local game stores are not going to say no to a donation to help the cause. If they are in as desperate situation as a lot of stores are right now, they are not going to say no to a donation. You can donate money, you could donate games if they have a games library, whatever. Donations are basically pay it forward, is what I'm saying. You know, do something now, and then at some point in your life, someone will do something nice for you. I'm sure of it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're the five sort of things that I've come up with. There are little bits here and there. You shouldn't do all of them. For the love of God, don't do all of them. But I do feel that if everyone was to do at least one of those things, we would have no problem. Be it the free things or the things that cost, you're donating money. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Such little stuff, little things that you can just help these guys out with.
I mean, I guess another one right now, if you have got the spare money, attend their events.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Events make these places money, and money keeps the lights on, keeps the doors open. So do everything you can to keep these things alive. Keep the community alive by doing it, because without friendly local game stores and clubs, this hobby, it runs a risk of bursting its bubble, and we've done so well over the past 10 years to grow this hobby into such a big behemoth hobby. It's still niche. No matter which way you look at it, it's still a niche hobby, but it's huge. It's bigger now than it ever was before. I don't want to see games stop coming out, but will they stop coming out if the money stops coming in? Of course they will. Anything else you want to talk about it, James?
No, I think you've covered all the bases there, Jason.
Oh, I hate being so philosophical. I think money is a pain. I really hate putting material things first in my life. Because joy and happiness is far more important to me. And yes, I look at it and go, well, I've got enough games here to last me a lifetime. I mean, if all of the games companies in the world closed down forever, I wouldn't exactly be up a creek without a paddle. I've got enough games here, haven't I, really? You know me, so the likelihood is we would be playing those games together. You'd be okay. But that doesn't work for everyone around the world.
No, it doesn't. But how much of this hobby is the playing the game, wondering what's the next big game going to be?
Yeah.
Where's the buzz? There's a lot of buzz around this game.
Yeah.
If no one's making games, all of that goes away.
It does. And, if there's nothing new coming out, again, buzz will just eventually dissipate to nothing. It's like a game that is not supported anymore. It may well have some buzz when it dies, with people wanting to keep it alive, but eventually it peters out to nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's what would happen with the hobby. I mean, I think that's a worst case scenario. I don't think it's going to be that bad. However, I do feel that a lot of smaller businesses are going to succumb to that inevitable having to close the doors.
Yeah, and I think it's that name dropping. A lot of people fall into that false trap of, it'll be fine, I can still get my games from insert internet company name here, but you don't always go to these places for just to purchase a game. It's like there's the social aspect of it. Game nights, the different events that they run, it might be like we said, your favorite place to sit down and have a coffee and chat with people. All of that you can't get from these online retailers.
Exactly. So games clubs and game cafes, they're all they're all going to be in this together. They're all going to be up that street. So let's just do everything we can, keep them around. I think that's what I want to end on.
Yeah.
Speaking of ending, James, should we hand over to the man in the news shed who's going to tell me what I am going to spend money on this week?
Yes.
While I haven't been spending as much. Eventually, he's going to find something that I just can't refuse.
Indeed.
Let's do it. Hand over to you, Paul.
Brian. I'm still feeling poorly. Bloody charming. Well, if you'd had a chest infection all week, I'm sure you wouldn't look your best either. Yes, that's why my voice is all freaky. On second thoughts, it is my medicine time, isn't it? I know they're quite big, but I assure you they are to be taken orally. And do you really have to wear that outfit? Well, first up, nurses do not wear that in hospital. Well, firstly, the skirt's way too short, and why on earth it comes with fishnet tights is beyond me. Where did you get it from? Wow, that explains a lot. Right, I'm going to attempt to read the news. Would you mind pressing the button before you go and get changed? Cheers. Fans of both King of Tokyo and King of New York and the behemoths that came as expansions can rejoice as the sequel game first hinted at way back in Essen 2021 has finally been given a name, King of Monster Island. Designed by Magic the Gathering's Richard Garfield, King of Monster Island heads to the cooperative realm as 1 to 5 players take on the boss monster of the island. Taking on one of the 3 boss monsters on the island, each with a weaker or stronger side, or indeed take on the campaign mode by taking forward skills and health as you go through the boss's hierarchy. The bosses aren't just on their own, as their minions populate the board through the unique central volcano dice tower, which will distribute them to sections on the board. If you're used to former games, then one of the main changes is the addition of a foot and a wrench to your black/green dice. The foot, which allows you to move, or indeed move other monsters around the board. Like I said, this is a co-op. Feet can also be used to attack, as well as the usual claws, and of course the hearts will help to heal your inevitable damage. The wrench, however, allows you to call in assistance from allies circling the island. The cast of new monsters comes in the form of Megamoth, a huge 6-armed human form moth with battle armour, Purple Rain, who unfortunately doesn't resemble Prince in any way, shape or form, rather more of a space rocket that has smashed into an alien planet and become sentient. You've got Rex Flores, is a vegetation-based monster, looking more like a Groot/Mind Slayer combination, but with a cute Japanese anime face. And Pagura is a large lizard crustacean combination, and last but not least is Hades, the sentient Transformers-like battleship that's covered in armour and cannons. Fans may like to know that all monsters from both King of Tokyo and New York are compatible, allowing you to take your favourite kaiju into battle. Monster Island is set to be launched soon, so no official release date has been revealed, so we're hoping for some more information around Essen in a few weeks' time. That's if it doesn't actually release there. Elizabeth Hargrave, who doesn't know the name, but if you don't, she is the designer of the critically acclaimed game Wingspan and its expansions, alongside Tussie Mussie, a game based on a Victorian fad of exchanging flowers with lovers and friends. On leaving the realms of birds and flowers to some extent, she headed on over to the migratory flight paths of monarch butterflies with her follow-up title Mariposa, before co-creating the Fox Experiment with Jeff Fraser, a game about a Russian experiment on domesticating foxes. Well, there is no rest for the wicked, as Miss Hargraves has already been hard at work on her next title and is heading back to a more fauna-based subject with an as-yet untitled game based on mother trees. Based on a book from author Suzanne Simard entitled Finding the Mother Tree, Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest. The game is based on the concept of mycorrhiza, or in layman's terms, the symbiotic relationship between mushrooms and plants. The board game would see players become the mother trees, which are, as described by Susan Simard in her aforementioned book, ancient giants that have developed relationships with other plants and fungi through an interconnected web of roots. As with mother trees, players will be using a shared set of mushroom cards that they'll be building networks with, similarly to the real-life forest bastions. Using these connections, players will be able to better spread out their seedlings and establish beneficial relationships between them and the various mycorrhizal fungal surrounding them. With success from our other games in the bag, we can only wait and see what more information and gameplay is like in the coming months. Although with plans to head for Kickstarter for funding, come on really? You think Stonemaier, AEG or Pandasaurus would have a little bit more faith in the designer? A couple of bits of info have arisen from the depths of the sea as to Ark Nova's upcoming expansion, Aquarius. Firstly, the removal from virtually everywhere of the original cover depicting orca whales. We do know there was a little backlash when the cover was revealed, so I'm guessing that was taken on board and is heading back to the drawing board. Next up is the enclosure reveal for the said Aquarius editions, in the form of a size 2 enclosure and a larger size 5 enclosure. What is missing from the artwork, as in the tiles for the petting zoo, aviary and reptile house in the base game, are the sections for cubes denoting animals inside the enclosures. This could denote that all aquatic animals could share the enclosure. Or indeed, as it was mentioned, with a majority of the creatures in the expansion being reef-based, they will be small and friendly enough to get along with each other in one enclosure. Mathias Wigge, the game's designer, also made comment on the new wave symbols that will be on the expansion cards and how it will interact with the market row, saying, "There is no constant maintenance since the wave only happens when you refresh the display anyways. You basically just change the extra cards then, meaning the cards will only ever adjust when the display refreshes. He went on to say that in the combined deck, approximately every 9 to 10th card will have a wave symbol on it, telling us somewhat that in a well-shuffled deck, the distribution of new cards within the deck as a whole. So with this new information, along with a start card draft, introducing a little more asymmetry, and the new University Breed Registry, it's looking like a well worthwhile expansion I, for one, am looking forward to. And we're heading on over to crowdfunding now, and the first up is Loot Dispute by Andrew Smith and Gold Seal Games. It's for 2 to 4 players, takes 30 minutes to play, for ages 14 years and over, and ends on Thursday, October the 6th. A group of adventurers has just left town after clearing out a nearby dungeon. The townsfolk have worked up the courage to go and see what valuable loot they may have left behind. An asymmetric grid of cards featuring different types of loot is laid out. First player splits the grid along any single straight line between cards, claiming one set of loot cards for themselves. Each successive player can choose to further divide any pile in play. If another player has laid claim to the pile you choose to split, that player is kicked off that pile of loot and will take another turn. If turn order returns to you without being kicked off your loot selection, you keep those cards. Once everyone has collected their loot and organised it by colour, players draft a merchant card, each with a different scoring mechanism. Each merchant is assigned to a colour of loot, with their scoring mechanism only counting towards the loot collected in that colour. Players move to the next room in the dungeon, represented by a new loot card configuration being laid out, and repeat the process of cleverly splitting loot and looking to draft the most useful merchant. After 5 rooms of loot have been split, players score each colour of loot based on the merchant assigned, with most points winning. And there's just one pledge level. You can grab the claim and a limited edition first player coin for just £17, with an estimated shipping coming in at £10. Next up is Age of Inventors by Meeple Pug. It's for 1 to 4 players. It's going to take you roughly an hour to play, for 14 years and over, and ends on Monday, October the 10th. Age of Inventors will travel back to the second half of the 19th century, where a series of inventions is about to change, where and how people live, work, travel and communicate. Your role is to lead humanity's charge into a bright future. Every player selects one of the 4 types of laboratories. You may play as a government lab, a corporation lab, a university lab, or an innovator lab. Each one offers asymmetrical powers to use to your advantage. While running the lab, you will have the chance to purchase different equipment made available every round. Your choice of equipment will be influenced by each piece's ability and its cost in funds. The equipment will also indirectly affect your order of play during every round. Most importantly, you will be able to use your funds to hire legendary inventors like Tesla, Marie Curie or Einstein himself. Every inventor has their own unique abilities that might just give you the edge against your opponents. Then you need to conceive of the right invention from your inventions on offer by spending your most valuable resource, your ideas. However, there is much more than meets the eye. You may gain secret victory points by cleverly placing inventions on the board and gaining breakthrough tokens, or gather experiments to fulfill. There is also the ingenuity rank that affects most parts of the game where you may advance, but at a cost. Experience a strongly replayable game with a different pattern of inventors and inventions created every time. Breaking news cards spice up the game by altering the rules of each round just a bit to make it a little more interesting. Age of Inventors combines worker placement and action selection mechanics with an interesting blend of asymmetrical power use from your lab and inventors, and eventually tile placement of inventors and inventions. It is a fast and intense, highly replayable game that's equally enjoyable as a family game or as a competitive Euro game for the most demanding of gamers. The base pledge comes in at £43 and comes as a retail version without any stretch goals, or grab the deluxe pledge for £52, which exchanges all the plastic components with wooden ones and includes all unlocked stretch goals. And lastly on Kickstarter this week is Evil Bunny, a Ruthless card game by David Thomas. It's for 3 to 10 players, takes 20 minutes to play, It's for 7 years and over and ends on Tuesday, October the 11th. Evil Bunny is the Mario Kart of card games, where a simple card can ruin relationships in an instant. It's fun, fast-paced and ruthless. Players start with 3 golden eggs. On each player's turn, the top card is drawn and determines where they must pass their golden eggs, to the player on the left, right or to the centre of the table. This continues until there is only one remaining player with golden eggs. Pretty easy, right? Here lies where the game gets pretty ruthless. Scattered throughout the deck are mystery boxes. These cards give players the ability to sabotage and attack your opponents. You'll even have the option to target specific players. Let's just say your definition of family might change after playing a round or two. We think the game combines all the elements we think make an awesome card game. It's fun, fast and simple, and being able to sabotage other players is a great bonus. So if you're into games, bunnies, nuclear, egg explosions, egg exorcisms, or just deviled eggs, and any other ridiculous sabotages, then Evil Bunny is for you. Pledge at £22 for the base game of Evil Bunny, or £31 gets you the base set of Evil Bunny and the usual addition of a not safe for work edition for added naughtiness. And we're heading on over to events, and this Saturday, Surrey Board Game Group will be hosting their game day up in Hawley. Ian will be on hand hosting at the YMCA Hawley Young People and Family Centre, the old fire station, Albert Road, Hawley, RH6 7JA. The event runs from 9:30 through to 5:30 and just £5 per head for those in attendance, with tea and coffee included. And the weekly events? Yep, Tuesdays has Worthing board gamers congregating down at Dice Worthing store from 7pm until 10pm. Location of the store is 24 to 26 Portland Road, Worthing, BN11 1QN. Just £3 per head for the session with food, drink and an alcohol licence if you enjoy a bevy or 3 whilst gaming. Wednesdays has 2 groups running. If you're in the Crawley area, Crawley Gaming Community is being hosted at the Comic Shop, 42 High Street, Crawley, RH10 1BW. Gathering from 6ish onwards until close, just £3 per head there. Again, food, drink and an alcohol licence if you fancy some dizzy water with your dice rolling. Joining the Wednesday night groups, but a little closer to the coast, is Brighton Board Gaming, also known as Board Games at the Barn, run by designers Team Custard Kraken. You can find them at West Dean Barn, Dean Vale, Brighton, BN1 5ED. They'll be running from 7pm through to 11pm, free for new attendees and £2 from there on in. Thursdays has another 2 groups running, starting with Worthing Board Gamers, pitching up to the Ardington Hotel, Steen Gardens, Worthing, BN11 3DZ from 7 o'clock. Those of you further east can try Lewis Board Game Club at the Trinity Gaming Cafe. Location being Trinity Church, Arbinger Place, Lewis, BN7 2QA, running from 7 through to 11. And relieving to some extent that Monday morning feeling is Crawley Gaming Club on Monday evenings, running from 6pm over at the Tilgate Community Centre, Shackleton Road, Crawley, RH10 5DF. Just £3 per person with drinks and snacks available for purchase on site. Well, just about managed that, didn't I? And I'm glad to see you've changed. Well, mostly. You've still got those tights on. Kinky. Right, I'm off back to bed. Say goodbye to everyone for me. And it's a goodbye from me. Keep safe and well, Meeples. Keep those dice rolling, cards shuffling, and we'll be right here for you next week.
Thank you very much for that, Paul, and thank you guys for joining us once again for another topical discussion, James.
Indeed. I'd just like to say that, you know, Paul will hunt and hunt until he gets you to open your wallet.
He will. He will. I mean, to be fair, I can't lie. I still have been buying games. I just find that I'm not buying the big, expensive ones. I might buy a little box game every now and then.
But this is what we were saying. It's like, it's not necessarily, or what I was saying, it's not necessarily related to what's going on. It's just we're older and wiser and can't get away with blowing that paycheck all in one go anymore. It's sort of like, it's like me with the Warhammer, like I was saying. It's like, no, I will build and paint what I have before I buy something new, instead of just going, I want that shiny, buy it. Want that shiny, buy it. Want that. I've got quite a stack of boxes here.
The real question is, James, like if you could go back and tell us a younger self, for example, when we used to work together and payday came along and it was always on a Friday and by the Monday that paycheck was gone, what would you say?
You see, these are one of those. It's one of those situations because that wasn't going on hobby or anything. That was going into the local pub.
Yes,
and we were very foolish and immature at the time. But those experiences may sort of helped create the people we are now. So it's still money well spent in a way. I don't regret it. It's not like I spent all that money and I look back on it now and go, oh, I regret that. It's like, well, no, I had many good nights out, so worth it.
But I can't say I remember much of them if I'm completely honest, because
Well, I don't regret them, so therefore they must have been good.
I don't know. There's lots of things I regret from that part of my life, but that's another personal story. Anyway, James, I've spent this entire episode thinking about Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Have you?
I have.
You're going to buy it, aren't you?
I don't know. It goes against everything I've just talked about and how much I shouldn't be spending money. However, what I am going to say is if I am going to buy it, I am going to buy it from my friendly local game store.
Indeed. As you should.
I may have asked him to order it in last night.
So you're going to buy it then?
I probably will. Yeah, more than likely. I don't know. I was hoping for him to get it in and then I could stop rubbing it in your face and get you to buy it. But yeah, we'll see. We could just steal Paul's copy. I think he's got one. So we'll try that one. I want to play some games. It's been over 45 minutes that we've been flapping our gums, James. That's too long for us. So we are going to say goodbye. Till next week, I've been Jason.
And I've been James.
You've been listening to the Meeple-minded podcast, the philosophical Meeple-minded podcast. Join us next week for more tabletop gaming goodness. Ta-ta, goodbye.